Dear viewers, we in India have a lot of complaints about the infrastructure. But once things are constructed, who maintains them? And is that why that we have a lot of faults that show? But how do they do it in the US? Do they really maintain at all? And what kind of inspection they get into? To speak about all that I have with me today, Mr. CV Shashikumar. A very warm welcome.
Thank you very much.
What exactly do you do?
Yeah, basically I run a consulting engineering firm in US, and our major emphasis is in maintenance of the infrastructure.
Okay.
And in particular the bridges actually.
Okay.
If you want, I can take you a little bit through the history.
But is it basically the federal infrastructure or the private ones that are built by private organizations?
Okay. Basically bridges are owned by either local municipalities or by the state government or by the federal government.
Okay.
And normally there are no private owners when it comes to the bridges, or hardly there are very few owners when it comes to bridges. Though the ownership is by different public agencies, there is a federal funded program to conduct a maintenance inspection of these bridges.
Okay. There must be history to it.
Yeah, of course. What happened in 1957, there was a bridge called the Silver Bridge over Ohio River.
Okay.
And it collapsed, and it resulted in approximately 35 deaths.
Okay.
Then immediately, both the public as well as the public representatives, such as senators and House of Representatives, they brought in a bill where all the bridges in the US, which is estimated at 1 million bridges, and approximately 500,000 bridges are about 20 feet in length, and the remaining 500,000 are culverts and small bridges, probably less than 20 feet in length. So they brought in a program that every bridge which are more than 20 feet in length needs to be inspected once in 2 years.
Okay. Inspected for what?
Okay. Basically it is with respect to the safety. Safety means inspection with respect to the structural integrity of the bridge, or inspection with respect to the safety for the public.
Is it also the viability of the design? Because something built about 30 years ago, it must have built for certain specifications.
Yeah, of course. That's absolutely true. That's one of the aspects that we look into when it comes to maintenance of inspections. For example, before the Second World War, quite a bit of infrastructure was put in the US. And at that time, the trucks were in the order of 20 to 25 tons. The load of trucks were 20 to 25 tons. Now we have trucks which are 45 tons. Or even we have trailer trucks which are up to 88 tons capacity. Each axle is front axle is 8 tons, and the next 4 axles are 20 tons actually. So basically those bridges are also becoming obsolete with new loading of the trucks actually.
What is the purpose of the inspection? Is it to find whether they are safe, or to see that if they need to be replaced, reconstructed, reinforced?
Of course, there are basically two aspects. One is the structural integrity of the bridge, whether it is capable of taking the loads of the moving vehicles or the pedestrians. And the second aspect is the safety for the public. Though there may be a bridge which is capable of carrying the load, but there may not be railing, a safety railing, which is missing on the top of the bridge. So then a vehicle which is going over the bridge may trip over and may fall into deep water or the road down below actually. So basically it addresses the maintenance aspect, addresses the safety, structural integrity.
That was the first time in 1950.
After it collapsed, after the Silver Bridge over Ohio River collapsed, they started to basically this.
And one collapse was enough for them to actually pass a bill.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's the most important thing. Not only that one collapse was good enough to pass the bill, but that one collapse included all the bridges within the United States of America.
And we need in India at least 1,000 bridges to collapse.
Yes, exactly. That
and then something else happened in a few years after that.
Yeah, exactly. So when they started with the inspection, they went and they conducted the inspections. In 1983, another bridge collapsed in Connecticut actually. And this one collapsed, though they did the inspection, they were not doing the inspection for certain components of the bridge. A close inspection. So one of the pins, it is called as, it rusted, and it was cut off.
And most of them are metal bridges?
No, not necessarily.
Because you can see all these hanging kind of bridges, I tell you, which is not actually made of concrete, but of iron.
Yeah, like
steel.
Okay. Of course, like the major bridges, which are in the, so for example, if you know Brooklyn Bridge,
Okay.
or like Manhattan Bridge.
Okay.
These are long span bridges are normally built with steel,
Okay.
and the deck can be concrete actually.
Oh.
Yeah. Whereas the smaller.
But, is there something behind it? Why is it okay for a bridge to be built with steel, and something is okay with concrete? And because
Yeah.
even in India, you see most of the bridges built of concrete.
Yeah, these are short span bridges relative to the bridges that I am talking about
Okay.
actually. And steel is easy to erect.
Okay.
And concrete has certain limitations.
Is it
actually.
safer?
Not really. All the bridges are supposed to be built safer, irrespective of whether you use steel or concrete.
Okay.
That should not be the
This is
criteria.
about the extent of Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah.
And built with steel.
Yeah.
It actually doesn't look very safe, but it's very safe.
Oh, of course, it is. The bridge was built in 1888, if
Yeah.
my memory is correct. And of course, it is safe. There is a maintenance program,
Okay.
which was, of course,
You've been involved in that too?
yeah, we did that Brooklyn Bridge inspection as a sub-consultant
Okay.
in year 2000. We conducted the biennial bridge inspections.
Okay.
And of course, we helped in determining the load capacity of the bridge.
And what happened in 1983?
1983, once this, one of the pins failed in for one of the bridges in Connecticut,
Okay.
immediately they brought in another program called as 100% hands-on inspection,
Okay.
or fatigue critical or fracture critical members.
Okay.
There are certain components in the bridge which needs inspection within 1 feet distance.
Okay, okay.
So one cannot stand 20 feet below and say, I'm done with the inspection.
Okay.
So now they brought in another program, every 2 years or every 5 years, all these fracture critical and fatigue prone details needs to be inspected within 1 feet distance.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that
How would you know if something is wrong inside? Something might look perfectly fine from outside.
Yeah.
A bolt or a nut or whatever. It
Okay.
could be developing a crack within. Do you have any test for that to find out?
No, if it is hidden, of course there are, with respect to concrete, what we do is we call it a sounding actually.
Okay.
Our testing methods are non-destructive methods.
Okay.
Where we don't lead, we cannot test it in such a manner that the bridge will collapse actually.
Okay.
So what we call it as non-destructive method.
Okay.
If there are cracks, we have one testing method called dye penetrant test.
Okay.
Provided it is exposed. If it is interior, we cannot determine it.
Okay.
And also we have called as D-meter.
Okay.
Basically what it does is it determines the thickness of the steel without destructing it. It
Okay.
basically sends ultrasonic sound or the waves, and we can determine the thickness of the steel.
Okay.
Of course, after removing the rust, corrosion, whatever is on the top of the steel actually.
Okay.
And also there will be, like you brought up one very genuine question, what if it is internal which you cannot see? There is a bolt or a rivet or something. If it is cracked, what are you going to do?
Okay.
We call it as internal redundancy.
Okay.
What is internal redundancy? Say for example there are 6 bolts. If one of them has cracked, then the load can be distributed to the remaining 5 bolts actually.
Okay.
Of course, if all 6 of them have cracked, then we have to look into the displacement, we sound it, we test it, we use the hammer and other things to check it out really whether all these 6 bolts have cracked.
But is it possible for you to replace one bolt from a very old structure?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, before, if you look at the old structures, even including the Indian railways,
Okay.
most of them were made out of rivets actually.
Okay.
Now that concept is gone. When you do the riveting, it's difficult to replace it. If you do it with the bolts, nut and bolt,
yeah.
now most of the structures are built with nut and bolts,
Okay.
and it is easy to replace. If
Okay.
one of the rivet is gone, or if one of the bolt is gone, immediately we can bring in another nut and bolt and we can fix it
Okay.
and we can tighten it.
Okay.
That is a possibility.
It must be a very expensive process to examine these old structures.
Not really, yes or no, I'll put that way, how it will, to the Indian conditions, how it is applicable, it depends on how one will look into this aspect actually.
Okay.
Of course, it's the proposition itself that it is expensive. When it comes to the question of saving the lives,
Okay.
there is no such definition called as expensive.
Okay.
That's the bottom.
In the US, not in India.
No, probably that is one of the purpose that I am meeting here.
Okay.
To see that that is brought to the attention
Okay.
of the public and probably to the concerned officials.
Okay.
That there is a need to
Okay.
look into this aspect.
How intensive and extensive is this process of examination?
Okay. What we do is, for example, we have done approximately around 4,000 structures inspections in the last 5 years, just in New York State itself, working for New York State Department of Transportation. Out of the 20,000 bridges, if my memory is correct, almost 11,000 bridges are inspected once in a year, if they have some minor deficiencies. Whereas the remaining 9,000 bridges are inspected once in 2 years actually. Basically it constitutes like two engineers. One is a licensed professional engineer from the state of New York. Other one is a normal engineer who is called as assistant team leader. They will have a van, they will have a laptop computer, and there is a special software for doing the maintenance inspections. They will carry the cell phone, they will go to the field, to the bridge site. And normally, if there is a need, they are supported by traffic maintenance people. Any equipment that we need to access the bridge, such as called as UBIU, Under Bridge Inspection Unit, bucket truck, or scaffolding, boat, barge, whatever we need, as in when we need it, we'll use those subcontractors.
Is it actually easy to organize these things in the US?
Yeah, it's very easy. Actually,
it's not like non-cooperation, some officer is not around, somebody is not available, some equipment is not in place.
No, that one has never an issue for us. Very rarely, like as I said, approximately we do around 800,000 structures inspection every year. Hardly we come across that difficulty. Absolutely, it is no problem.
And if you find some fault, then what do you do?
Yeah, there are again two stages there. Again, I have to address two quick things here. One is a safety concern. Say the railing is missing, so somebody may trip over. Then immediately we call it as a safety flag. What we do is immediately we'll prepare a report which can be prepared directly in the field, in the computer. We take the photographs, we attach it to the report, digital photographs. Then immediately we can email it to the concerned party. Either it is the regional office or the head office or to the project manager. Immediately it will go to the concerned officials and they will look at it and they will say, okay, it needs to be fixed. And if it is really unsafe that something is going to happen within the next 1 hour or next 5 minutes, we are authorized to close the bridge as a inspection team. So immediately we'll close the bridge until it is being replaced by another professional engineer.
Are you also the certifying agency for the safety of the bridge?
Yeah, basically we certify. Not we are certifying agency, we are consultant.
But who does the clearance? Who gives the clearance once it's certified?
We can certify, say sometimes like if it is a very short fixing, like it can be fixed in half an hour. If we are there, we can certify immediately and we can clear the bridge. If it is a long-term one, what we'll do is we'll transfer the responsibility to another official who owns the bridge. It need not have to be a federal funded official or the state official. Say municipality or a village owns that bridge. That official has to come. Once he comes, we can leave the bridge, transferring the responsibility. So basically a responsibility.
But what responsibility do you bear on your heads? There could be some fault that you overlook and that could cause some kind of a damage in the future. And that could endanger somebody's life. In that case, what kind of responsibility do you bear? How accountable do you become?
No, that has not happened. That's what.
That's not happened. But but in a country like that, because here a lot of shirkers. Because I mean, you could just get away with anything. But when you're talking about everything systematic, just to learn from that.
No, it is so organized that the probability of something going wrong after the maintenance inspection is very rare. In our case,
are you aware of the accountability?
Yes.
To such an extent that it becomes.
We are aware of the accountability. Before we start the job, we are supposed to carry an insurance card as professional liability insurance. So we carry like different, depending upon the farms, we carry up to $2 million professional liability insurance. So in case if we do a mistake, so individual who was hurt while going over the bridge or the bridge collapses or one or the other thing, then basically like they will come and seek the liability insurance. They will approach our insurance company for the compensation actually.
But you depend on the, generally somebody like you working in a field like this, would you rather depend on the insurance or would you ensure that the job that you do is good enough?
No, not good enough.
It's the best.
We see that it is not, it doesn't collapse or no harm is done.
But don't you think it's a very big responsibility to take care of the infrastructure?
No, responsibility wise is, see, like No, once it is made routine, basically for us it is routine. Though I do come across that question, the one you asked with my professors in Indian Institute of Science and other things, it's once it becomes routine.
Okay.
It's a routine responsibility
Okay.
rather than it
You
is
don't take
major
it for granted
responsibility.
that you certainly do it well and somewhere
Yes.
you make a mistake.
No, it is very well defined. The process is so well defined.
Okay.
And for the last 25 years,
Okay.
every time when a mistake occurs or something happens, it has been rectified and it has been incorporated not only for one bridge, for all the bridges in the country.
Now the question is that how would the Americans trust their safety in the hands of an Indian?
Oh, no, that, of course, there are a lot of, as you know, like, there are a lot of computer consultants, there are a lot of engineers like me.
Okay.
And there are a lot of companies, so like if my...
You must have had to prove yourself somewhere, didn't you have to?
Yeah, of course. Initially, that's why I was talking to one of your colleagues before I entered here. Initially, it was difficult for us. We had to put in 116 proposals in 237 combinations.
Okay.
Before we start getting our...
So why did you want to get into this?
Yeah, the first job that I started, usually a career, I may be wrong, a career is defined based on what you do during the first 5 years of your, after your graduation or what you start
Okay.
actually. So the first job that I had was with a bridge engineering company, which was 100 years old, called as Hardest in Hanover.
Okay.
Who are experts in bascule bridges and of course in infrastructure and maintenance of bridges. So I started with them and I gained that knowledge working for them for 4 or 5 years. Then I said, hey, I can do it on my own. That's how I started.
Okay, you studied in India and then you did your masters in ISC and then you went abroad.
Yeah, I went for my doctoral studies.
Okay.
But I did not complete it because probably I got married.
Okay.
So there was a responsibility and the scholarship was not enough, so there was a need for me to take
How
the
big
job.
is your team?
Yeah, we are 33 engineers at this time, 33 engineers and technicians.
Okay, are you successful? Are you getting enough jobs?
Success is a relative term, like how do you define it? So success is a relative term. If I compare myself for somebody who has not opened the company, who is working as an employee, either in India or somewhere else, and whether compare myself with another company which has 3,000 employees. So success is a relative term. Of course, we have a lot of scope to achieve more, accomplish more. I believe I have 25 more years of
When you watch a lot of things in India, when you see a lot of things in India, when you read reports of bridge collapses and so much of infrastructural inadequacies, you feel like responding to it, and you've taken examples of some bridge collapses here and there. For instance,
I looked at 4 cases actually.
Okay.
Of course, I have seen many more cases.
And you felt that neither the government nor the people have learned nothing from the instances and the incidents.
I did, quickly to quote some of them. One is the Rajdhani Express,
Okay.
going from Calcutta to New Delhi. It had an accident over a bridge in Aurangabad,
Okay.
killing around 100 individuals or more than 100 individuals. And similarly, the Mangalore-Chennai Express,
Okay.
going over Kadalundy River, I believe that,
Okay.
killing around 58 individuals or so.
Okay.
And similarly, this one is a little bit of funny part. There was a pedestrian bridge in Mumbai, which was going over a railway line. The concerned officials felt that it is not safe, and they closed the bridge for the pedestrians. Unfortunately, they forgot what is below the bridge,
Okay.
and the bridge collapsed.
On the train.
On the train, and killing 1 or 2 individuals actually.
Okay.
Of course, hurting quite a few. And recently, I believe it is 3 months ago, one of the temporary bridges built in the northern state, I cannot recollect properly, but it collapsed. A truck went over.
In Darjeeling.
In Darjeeling, yes, exactly. And it killed quite a few individuals, workers. And also the truck went
Because
into
it
the
could
water
not take
quite
the
deep
weight.
into the because of the weight. And even
Is it basically responsibility, or is it because the design was faulty, or is it just because nobody is bothered about even ensuring some basic things like safety and the
no, it is,
viability of a certain
no, I
infrastructure
think it
project?
is a responsibility Irrespective.
Who is responsible?
I think whoever owns the bridge, they should be responsible. There are two parts into it.
Nobody wants to own responsibility. If you own it, you need to own the responsibility too. So it's better not to own anything.
Yeah.
It's better to pass the buck.
Because if you look at these bridges that I mentioned, the owners are different. What we need is a concrete effort by the central government to introduce a program for all the bridges.
Throughout the bridges or other things also, because for instance, you also inspect signboards.
Yes, exactly. That's also
in the US.
Yeah. You see, for example, in Rochester, one of the signs which was on the roadway, which was projecting onto the roadway, collapsed onto a vehicle and it killed one individual. So immediately they brought in another program called as sign inspections. Every sign needs to be inspected once in 4 years, so that the safety is assured for the public.
So and also when a barge hit against one of the posts of the bridge, they brought in another system to
exactly. In this case what happened, this was a bridge over Arkansas River on a navigable water, and the barge which was supposed to go below the bridge, it lost control. It went and hit the pier of the bridge, and it resulted in the collapse and the 5 individual deaths actually. Now they are bringing in a requirement that all the bridge owners, where the bridges are located over navigable water, needs to protect the bridge, not only from the top accidents, but also any accident that may be caused due to the moving ship, boats, etc.
So they construct temporary structures to take the shock.
It's called as sacrificial dolphins. We call it as physical protection devices for the bridges. And basically like these are called as caissons. When it will vary from bridge to bridge depending upon the size of the bridge and depending upon the size of the ship. Now for example, the ships are called as DWT, displacement weight tonnage. Approximately it is 35,000 tons. So if it is going below a bridge, and the shock absorber, what we call it as sacrificial dolphins, it should be capable of handling that load when the ship hits. So basically these are caissons filled with the sand, and when the ship hits that sacrificial dolphins, it will fail. It will displace by half, approximately, depending upon the design, half the diameter of the sacrificial dolphin or the caisson. So when it displaces, it will absorb the shock from the ship. We don't want a protection for that particular bridge, like with a steel protection or something. When it hits, it
transfers.
The ship will collapse. We don't want ship to be damaged also. Here we have two purposes.
Neither the ship nor the bridge.
Nor the bridge. That's why we call them as sacrificial dolphins.
But how strictly are these things implemented in the
Yeah, very strictly. I would put this way, as far as the bridge inspections are concerned, like the program started, as I said, from 1957. One started with the regular maintenance inspections. Then it started with fatigue prone and fracture critical detail inspections. Then they added like 6 vulnerabilities. Because in one of the bridges what happened, though they were doing all the inspections, there was a flash flood. And it resulted in undermining or scour below the footing of a pier, which resulted in
hydraulic tests.
So now which made the cars to be washed away almost 1 mile length. So now what we do is they introduce 6 vulnerabilities, and one of them is hydraulic vulnerability assessment, where we check every bridge, a risk factor, high risk, medium risk and the low risk. What we do is basically we determine where it stands, the risk wise, with respect to 50-year flood or 100-year flood or a flash flood actually. So every time when something happened, the US Department of Transportation or the federal government brought in a program to address it actually. So it is very easy, except for the last one. I don't have the detail with respect to the sacrificial dolphins or protecting the bridges over the navigable water. At this time I don't have the complete details. But this is a program which can be implemented very, very easily, and an infrastructure is maintained very well. So that
but today when you're suggesting these things to the authorities in India, don't you have to also take cost into consideration?
Of course. Here are 2 costs. One is the what one has to look at is not the bridge cost. Say for example there is a bridge between from here to Mangalore. It cannot be operated for one or the other maintenance reasons.
Okay.
Then you look at the negative effects with respect to the transportation.
Okay.
If Mangalore is a port and you have to transport some material from Bangalore to Mangalore, everybody is held up.
Okay.
The negative costs are magnanimous, which cannot be compared actually.
Okay.
So maintenance of infrastructure is very much essential, along with the building of the new infrastructure.
Okay.
So that is one of the economic aspect of it.
But do you also suggest reinforcements? Do you also suggest, in case, because most of these old bridges are being rebuilt or replaced, could also the old bridges repaired in such a way they could also be made viable, you know?
Yeah. No, there are, again, like there are two aspects.
Okay.
Old bridges can be reinforced to take the new loads or the new trucks that are coming into the market. Sometimes it may not be possible to reinforce.
Okay.
In such cases, it is better to build a new bridge rather than to retain the old bridge.
But when new bridges are being built, particularly in India, do you think they are taking all these factors into consideration, that they are safe, that they are viable, that they are worthy of the kind of money that's being spent?
Okay.
Have you been doing some kind of an impromptu study about all these things?
No, in India I have not done it.
But you also tried to speak to the Public Works Department.
Initially I wrote a letter when the railway bridge collapsed. Basically, I don't know whether where it went, I don't know which file it went into. Basically, we want this program to be implemented, not only for the Public Works Department. Whoever owns the bridges in this country, whichever the agency who owns these bridges, should have this program.
But do you think when they construct itself, they should have provision for maintenance also in terms of costs?
Yeah,
because most of them just finish the bridge and get over with it.
Exactly. That's one of the problems that we face, even not only with respect to the bridges, even with respect to other components.
Because maintenance is not at all an issue.
Yeah. No, the fund can be brought out like the way that the US is doing. If possible, a provision should be made from the federal funding, exclusively set aside. So, whatever the amount it is, set aside for this bridge maintenance inspection program. And basically the fund can be administered either by the state Public Works Department or directly by the federal officials. And they can look at these bridges once in 2 years, once in 3 years, depending upon the convenience and the fund availability. And it should be reported to the local authorities, whoever owns the bridge.
But what are you suggesting to the Indian authorities?
Now, they should implement a program.
Are you keen about working with India and working with the agencies and doing something, because you've been seeing a lot of these collapses and damages and loss of life?
Yeah, there is a cost comparison that I have to make. I thought about it whether I can individually provide this one.
But you're also suggesting that, you know, if you could train the engineers from the Public Works Department who could also by themselves go and do this testing and examination
based on the
within the scope and the nature of their work.
Yeah, absolutely. That is my intention also. Based on the cost comparison, for example, like normally a state bridge, which I am working in New York State Department of Transportation, costs around $2,000 to inspect one bridge. So if we convert it, and it may be expensive to bring in somebody from there. The best and the effective way, as you suggested just now, is for us to train a group of engineers, say 30 or 40 engineers, and help them to develop the needed manuals to do the inspection, help them to develop the software that is needed for the Indian conditions, and work with them, train them for 2 weeks so that they can go on their own. And we can remain as consultants to support them as and when they get the doubts or questions or clarifications.
Do people in India understand your work?
Yeah, I believe like when I gave a presentation last year at Indian Institute of Science where I studied. Of course they do.
Your wife has been helping you with your work?
Yeah, of course. She's with me from the day I started work.
She had to change her profession to join you.
Yeah, probably. Yes, she used to work in a clinic, basically special education kids or autistic kids, and she changed over, and she's helping me. She's a part of the company.
But you really want to do a lot in your life and continue with whatever that you're doing?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. As I mentioned, I expect to retire not today, 25 years from now. Within that span, probably if I can, I don't want to use the word contribute, if I can help directly or indirectly to bring in this program
In
into
India.
this in India. Not only for this aspect, probably I can help in this aspect, particularly to
Okay.
bridges. Others can help in. And life is precious. You were asking one question: what is the cost for this maintenance
Okay.
program? You see, one is a cost, economic terms, which we can define. But there is one cost which we cannot define it. That's the life, actually, where we need to have a regard for the life of every individual.
I think
And
we need to-
everybody is precious.
I think we need to understand that first.
Yeah. So the cost cannot be compared. There is no comparison for the cost here when it comes to the life of individuals.
Mr. Shashikumar, thank you very much for having come to this show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.